Chaos creates opportunity, but how can you turn chaos to your advantage? Stay tuned as we discuss how I use chaos to build a strategy, to gain experience, and to ultimately secure my dream job at City Football Group. My name is Neil Wood and I'm a football finance professional. If you want to learn about finance using the medium of football, stay tuned. Subscribe, like the video, share and comment. So let's understand how chaos created an opportunity for me and how you can learn from it. Back in 2010, I qualified as a chartered accountant using my experience as an auditor at EY, the global professional firm, one of the best opportunities that I've ever had. When asked about my dream job by a recruitment consultant, I answered the financial controller of Manchester United or Manchester City, to which I heard I will never get one of those jobs. But what happened thereafter, in the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis, propelled my career and allowed me to gain experiences which were unique to any industry, and unique to the marketplace, both the locality of where I wanted to work and the industry in which I wanted to work. And we presently sit in a global economic crisis, which will present huge opportunities for finance professionals, for legal professionals, and off-pitch professionals in general. Those that can create a niche, those that can create a specialism within a generalization or a pool of professionals will position themselves to be able to leverage that experience and gain an opportunity to secure their dream job. Whether that's in football or elsewhere, opportunities are now going to arise, and people who grasp them and shape their own experiences will be positioned to be successful in the future. But how did I do it? Back in 2010, when I said that I wanted to be the financial controller of Manchester United and Manchester City and was told categorically that I wouldn't do it, I then decided to make some key decisions. At that point, the Royal Bank of Scotland had been bailed out by the UK government, and I was presented with an opportunity to move from the audit practice of EY into financial accounting advisory services, a specialist team of assurance practitioners that specialised primarily in international financial reporting standards. People who knew about complex accounting, an area which some people may say is boring, an area which colleagues of mine said wasn't attractive. The sexy part of the business was in mergers and acquisitions and transactions, and that's where a lot of my peers were heading, whether they worked in audit or other departments. Where I was heading into a specialism of audit or assurance, and I was the only one who joined the team. In fact, I was the only one in the team for a period of time in the Manchester office. Looking around, I could see that I was building a unique skill set. And on the horizon was what was called the future of UK GAAP, a changing piece of regulation in the accountancy world. All UK privately owned companies needed to convert to a future version of UK GAAP. At the time, it was IFRS for SMEs, or small and medium enterprises. That turned into IFRS 102, which was an evolution of UK GAAP. And by joining the team in FAS, or Financial Accounting Advisory Services, I was exposed to financial complexities and was thrown in at the deep end on a project with Royal Bank of Scotland, way out of my comfort zone. I trained in an audit practice in Manchester, and I ended up, as I qualified, having moved departments in London in financial services on a huge banking transaction where part of the Royal Bank of Scotland group was being sold to a potential buyer. That potential buyer at the time was Santander. It was pitched to be a £32 billion transaction. And I successfully navigated that project, which led to further projects, working with Microsoft, a huge global brand, gaining experience along the way, both from big projects on the international business stage with this specialism around international financial reporting standards. With Microsoft came an experience and an exposure to a US SEC environment, a tightly controlled environment, and one which would allow me to stand out if Manchester United opportunities had come up, which was also a listed company and still is a listed company on the New York Stock Exchange, subject to US SEC rules. When it came down to it, an opportunity just before the IFRS or Future of UK GAAP conversion was presented to me by a recruitment consultant that I'd strategically registered with, which had a partnership with City Football Group, and that recruitment consultant is Hayes. On Christmas Eve 2014, I received an email saying that a role had come up in the finance team of City Football Group. And at the same time, I was applying for a role at Luxfer Group. The financial controller at Luxfer Group had moved there from Manchester United. And at the time, I was interviewing for both roles that could lead to Manchester United via Luxfer or to City Football Group, directly into football as I wanted. I had no preference at the time. I didn't know what the future held for each club. I wasn't particularly a fan of either. But I'd built a skill set that would be valuable to both a US listed company reporting under IFRS, being Manchester United, or a privately owned company that had the requirement to convert to IFRS or an equivalent. But what's my point, and how would this help you? The football regulatory landscape is evolving. It's going through its greatest evolution since the formation of the Premier League, with the introduction of the independent regulator. The word governance is going to be used heavily in the world of football in the future. And although governance may be deemed to be boring in the same way that accounting or specialist accounting in the form of IFRS may be deemed to be boring, it would present you with an opportunity to add value to the football industry. Football is going to be more tightly governed than ever in future, primarily driven by the UK's independent regulator. And those that have experience in tightly regulated, heavily governed industries will present themselves with an opportunity to work in football if so desired. So if that's your ambition, look at what's coming down the line and try and position yourself that almost eliminates the competition. That's what I was able to do, so that when my CV was presented to the recruiting manager, I stood out from the crowd. And once I got the interview, it was up to me to convince the recruiting manager that I was the best person for the job. Don't get me wrong, some good luck and some good timing with a sprinkling of expertise and an ability to strike a relationship with that recruiting manager all helped. But the plan that came 5 years earlier was executed with, at least in my head, a high probability of that sort of role becoming available in the industry. And the same can be said today in 2, 3 or 4 years' time when it comes to governance. So read up on the independent regulator. Look at how you can gain some experience in the world of governance. And how can you stand out from the crowd when it comes to applying for those roles which will come down the line across the whole of the English football pyramid? Not just the Premier League, all the way through. So if you have a desire to work at a football club, and I would highly advise against it if you are a huge fan. And potentially that's a topic for another video. But if you are interested in working in football and you think that you can add some value, think about how you could potentially get to that interview stage and beyond. And we're here to help, especially if you're a finance professional. Our course is designed to help the 10-year younger version of myself, the one that said they wanted to be a financial controller of one of the 2 biggest Premier League clubs of all time, the ones based in Manchester where I wanted to live. There was no course out there at the time designed by a football finance professional with first-hand industry experience. And our professional certificate in football finance distills the experience that we got at that highest level of the Premier League and with UEFA reporting into a short course, which is digestible and would allow you to leverage that, especially when it comes to an interview. So what role will you play in the future of football? Do you have ambitions to work off the pitch? If so, we think that a finance education, whether you're working in finance or otherwise, will definitely come in handy. Who knows, you may be responsible for a budget of your own within a football club at a future point in time. You don't necessarily need to be an expert in FFP, but having an understanding of how your costs are going to contribute to that FFP calculation would definitely stand you in good stead. My name's Neil Wood and I'm a football finance professional. If you like the video, hit like and make sure you follow us and subscribe for more videos on the topic of football, finance and sports business.